welcome to everybody, to our members of the public, our staff, colleagues who are here. Now, we've got apologies from Councillor Clove for lateness and Councillor Anai for early departure. I also want to make a note, and I'm sorry we didn't note that Councillor Mike Lee was at the Transport Committee meeting last meeting, so we'll make a note of that. And I need to go on council business at about 10:15, so we're going to I'll tag team it with the Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to seek clarification today on the whole issue of apologies. I raised it yesterday. Councillor Lee and myself were at Auckland Transport on Tuesday. I might add, there were a number of meetings last year where I was at Auckland Transport, but they were not recorded as on council business. Now, there's a bit of sensitivity around that, what constitutes council business, whether it's having a private trip to the Gold Coast to go and actually have a look at light rail, or whether it is being present at an Auckland Transport designated committee meeting. I would like consistency from here on in on the way that absent is actually recorded. If we are genuinely on council business as part of an organised council meeting, then I think that should be properly recorded. I'm not suggesting we go back through the books and correct all of those, but whether it is a matter for Democracy Services to take greater care on recording committees of the whole, or quite where, I'd just like there to be a clearer line of accountability on absence, please.
And I think my view as chairs, we've been exceedingly consistent, but the responsibility sits with each individual elected member and their CSA, and Tam is the person to whom apologies need to be given, and you know, we can't go and check people's diaries and see where they are. The CSAs are pretty good at saying, Councillor so-and-so is an apology because they were at such and such a meeting, and that's well recorded. But the responsibility is not for Tam to go and hunt that out, it's for the CSA to give that to Tam.
Madam Chair, I completely concur, and my difficulty is not with Tam. I think the issue is about Democracy Services being very clear about the role of a CSA in making sure. It was only yesterday that I read the minutes, and I don't always read them if I'm not in attendance. So it's not just in relation to this committee, it is to other committees of the whole, and I would really like there to be consistency, and would direct the officers actually to speak to the appropriate officer within Democracy Service to make sure that is properly recorded.
Point noted and agreed.
And I concur.
We all concur.
Because I
Never type it in.
Oh, and that might include independent Māori statutory board business as well, Madam Chair.
All right.
Thank you. No. Not that everyone would apply to that category, of course. George.
Well, as long as you
Yeah, but you do. You can, and you will. Okay.
You're always here, though.
But we, in the same token,
There's your mate, Don.
we had at the last
Don
meeting a very clear discussion that we couldn't just put in, oh, my friend's not here, so I'm going to put in apologies. There was a very clear steer given that unless the apologies had gone via the CSA to our democracy staff, that we weren't just going to do a bit of a little wash up and a friendly nod. So these are what we've received, and that's what we'll deal with. So I'll move those. If there's a seconder, thank you, Member Ngamani. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Declarations of interest, we haven't had any. Confirmation of minutes, I'm happy to move the minutes of the 10th of May with the note and the correction for the councillors who were at Transport. Seconded, Councillor Casey. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Petitions, there are none. Public input, there are none. Now, local board, we've got Lisa White here, but Lisa, it might be good if you're happy to just speak prior to the Whenuapai issue. Would work really well because we'll get to that very quickly. Reports pending, pretty straightforward.
Moving on.
Move. Reports pending. I'll second that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Item 10, private plan change. Councillor Darby, you're happy to move?
Or a councillor from that area, if they...
From that area. Tāmaki.
I'll move then if this is...
Okay, councillor Darby will move.
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, you second.
Remember that we'd make these operative. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against, carried. And we move on to the Whenua Pai structure plan. So, Lisa, you're on.
I'm used to waiting 3 or 4 hours.
No,
I've made myself comfy.
no, we're being efficient today.
The structure plan for Whenua Pai, speaking at all of the unitary plan committee meetings prior to this, the local board...
Just move the microphone along a little bit, that'd
Sorry,
be great.
I'm not used to not being loud enough. A repeated request from the board was to ensure that we did do structure planning because we have existing issues from the developments around and adjacent to the Whenua Pai area. We've got the impacts of Hobsonville and Scott Point coming on, which are just adjacent. We have the issue with the motorway, that the road through Brigham Creek adjacent to the structure plan area. Or right in the middle of it. So we've got all these issues and we've got people travelling in both directions. The report indicates the specific issues relating to the North West Motorway and the traffic problems that Henderson, Massey and Rodney face. It actually goes both ways. The traffic also goes through past Green Heights to State Highway 1. People work in the Albany industrial area. This is it's two-way, so I'd really like to just put my hand up and volunteer to be the political representative from Upper Harbour on the reference group, because it's something that we're dealing with issues that are already in place. We've provided feedback to all of the proposed SHAs. We're aware of what's happening out there. So I am aware that it isn't just an Upper Harbour issue, but it sits fairly and squarely in our area and I'm putting up my hand to do my job.
Fantastic, Lisa, thank you for that. All right, so let's deal with that when we get into the item. Thank you, appreciate that. Quick input. Well, shall we get into the body of the next one? Right, we're in your hands.
Right, good morning, councillors. I've got a brief presentation to go through in terms of a PowerPoint. Really, the point of this report is just to inform you as to where we are with the preparation of the structure plan and to ask that you endorse the use of a reference group of politicians to be I guess approve the draft structure plan for public comment, but then the final structure plan will come back to this committee later on in September. So I'll just briefly go through the PowerPoint. So you'll see that the objectives of the actual project are twofold. The first thing is we want to do a robust structure plan, and we want to do that. When I say robust, what we're doing is using the Appendix 1.1 of the proposed Auckland Unitary Plan, which sets out all of the requirements for a structure plan. So there are some pages of studies listed there which need to be done, and it's important, I think, that we do this in a good quality way, because in the future it may be that developers are able to come in and want to do structure plans in future urban areas, and they will have to do it to the same standard. So that first one, the robust structure plan, which is then suitable to go directly into a plan change process, is very important. The second one is that this is the first structure plan under the future urban land supply strategy and under the unitary plan as well. But under the future urban land supply strategy, two areas were marked as being immediate work on a structure plan. That was this area and Pairata. So we have. So this is the first part of that, and Pairata there's some initial work being done, and then that will be followed through as a structure plan as well. Just looking briefly at that map, you can see the area outlined there outlined in red as being the structure plan area. Just a couple of notes there that it doesn't include Herald Island. Herald Island is not future urban in any way. It's urban suburban at the moment, and I don't think you're going to fit too many more houses in there. So that is not part of the structure plan. However, we are consulting with the local community group there because of the implications around traffic in that area. And then you'll see it's really at that intersection of State Highways 16 and 18. So it's almost like an island with some state highways sort of managing access very carefully. So we have to look at how we house a large number of people with and managing the links to the motorway and over the motorway as well. So that's got some significant issues to work with. Also noting to the north there is the Kumu-Huapai Riverhead area. Down here to the west, the west area, where we're looking at places like Red Hills, Westgate, Massey North. Some of those, not Red Hills, but Westgate and so on, significant metropolitan areas in their own right, or will be emerging, and of course Hobsonville Point out to the east. So there's a fair amount there to look at in terms of development already happening around the Whenuapai area. The other point to note is that, which is quite unusual I guess, is right in the middle of the study area, the Whenuapai Air Force Base is there. And our key assumption through this is that the Air Force Base, which takes up about 300 hectares out of the 1,300 hectares total, that 300 hectares remains as Air Force Base, and we are not doing planning which takes that away. So I just wanted to make sure, and in our discussions with the New Zealand Defence Force, they have noted that there are no plans at all to close this. Next one. So we are lucky in doing this structure plan in that there are a large number of past studies which have happened, particularly by Waitakere City Council and so on, but early work through the Norska project, and then work by this council as it started looking at greenfields areas, and in particular there were studies around the future urban areas. So we've also had several other reports which have been done by staff, and they ended up being summarised, I guess, and coalescing into the future urban land supply strategy, which you approved last year, and that was where I say there was priority put there on Whenuapai to be development ready. We've also been pretty lucky in that the combination of Auckland Council, Auckland Transport and the NZTA have combined together to do their study in greenfields areas around Auckland, the Transport for Future Urban Growth project, and so they are looking very closely at the transport networks in and around Whenuapai, and we've been able to work with them closely on that, so that's been pretty helpful. And it means that some consultation around transport has already happened, and we're linked in, and the poor old residents don't have to be consulted too many times on the same issue. The most recent work has been done in terms of an SHA which was granted within the Whenuapai area, and you will be aware that a number of other requests for SHAs have been declined by this committee, particularly for want of a structure plan where the bigger picture could be seen, and so an SHA could be seen in context. So because that was declined, we are working as quickly as we can to finalise this structure plan so that we know where we're going in terms of future development requests. So there are a range of specialist reports being done at the moment. Most of them are in-house, and we've had to use consultants for some of them, but certainly we've got Auckland Transport involved in the integrated transport assessment. We've got the stormwater department working on their part. We've got urban design being done with in-house, and so there's a whole lot of work there. In terms of iwi cultural assessment work, we've talked with both Te Kareramaki and Ngāti Whātua Kaipara, or whatever the new name is. Both Scott from Te Karo and also Georgina Harata, and they're both looking at cultural values assessments at the moment. So there are more reports there, but I've really just given you a bit of a range there. The planning process is important. This is the part which is, I guess, trying to be new and innovative and responsive, in that we are, having got the unitary plan to refine the high-level planning and the future urban land supply to do the same there. We are trying to do the structure planning, you will see there, in I guess together with the infrastructure planning which is required. So the next line down is about the initial work around planning. For example, where would you put a pump station for wastewater in this? Where might we have a school in the future? And how many schools might we need for a community like this? And so as we complete the structure plan, we get to that point of being able to understand what land might be designated as well. So rather than having a whole series of planning processes where where we do a structure plan and a plan change, and then we do designations and so on, we're trying to do as much as possible as some form of package, so that people see, when they're asked for submissions, people see the whole picture of not only what and who, but also when some of this might take place, because there will be stages involved in it. So you'll see there we're at that structure planning level. All of the infrastructure groups are looking very closely at the areas where they may need to designate in the future, so that as we complete a plan change and live zone it, we hope that infrastructure will be pretty close behind with it. So that's the way that we're sort of catching up, I guess you'd say, in the future. So consultation, to date we've particularly worked with the Transport for Future Urban Growth Area project team. We've had some meetings with the landowners and developers. We've talked with both key iwi groups. We've got a meeting coming up with ratepayers, and we've talked with some of the other stakeholders that we see may want to get involved with land and land purchase in the future, particularly Ministry of Education and water care and so on. So timeframes. We're in the preparation process now. We expect next month to be able to complete a draft, and it's at that point that I would like to get together with the reference group that we're nominating, that we're recommending that you approve today. Then we can use that group to work through the submissions and prepare a final structure plan in August and bring it back here for adoption, hopefully by this this committee. And then once the, I guess you might say, the dust on the unitary plan has settled so that we know exactly on what basis we would make a plan change, then we will propose a plan change process for that. So that's the presentation. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, Councillor Cooper, Watson, Casey, so far.
Thank you. Just in terms of the lists that you're talking about, and it might not be the right place, but employment, because if you look at the heat maps for that area, and the heat maps which indicate the lowest number of opportunities for employment in an area and the highest number of people going out, with the massive amount of people we're going to have there, we've only got old district, Waitaku District Plan Change 14, which allowed, really light industrial along Hobsonville Road. Are we going to be looking at those opportunities? I know there's business was in the future urban zoning for the district plan or the growth strategy way back. Some of Whenuapai was business land, but are we looking at that as well? Because we can't keep chucking people on the motorway.
Yes, that's quite correct. The assumption in the future urban land supply strategy, and the one that we're basing land use on at the moment, is around 10,000 or 11,000 houses and about 7,000 or 8,000 jobs.
Yeah, but in that small area, but where you look at, as you said, Red Hills, Hobsonville, Kumeu, Huapai, you know, it's going to go up to Waimaoku. We're also going to have more people in Warkworth. That's going to be more of a hub if we can make it that way, rather than just have everybody on the motorway. So is that going to be adequate?
So I think, for example, as somewhere like Red Hills gets structure plan, so there will be looking at that. But certainly we're doing a bit of analysis of that sort of demand, the growth around it, and again in Kumeu Huapai we would be looking to have a considerable range of jobs available as well, and I think that's part of the sustainability, the planning argument.
Yeah, because we've lost the opportunity on Hobsonville, so. Right? Thank you. Good, thank you. That's not me.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron. Very good presentation. You mentioned about a meeting coming up with ratepayers, with the ratepayers group. That's obviously the Whenuapai Ratepayers Association. So to this point, they haven't been brought into the preliminary discussions?
They've been along at some, together with the Transport for Future Urban Growth project people, they have run two sort of open days through a couple of weekends. I went to one about 6 weeks ago, and there was another one about a fortnight ago, I think. Yeah. And we have had a stand there, you might say, to be able to say, well, here's this transport network being proposed, but here's this Whenuapai structure plan as well, and you might want to be involved in that. And we've collected a lot of names from people who want to be involved, but we haven't formally talked to the ratepayers group yet. So that's coming up within a fortnight.
Within a fortnight, okay, that's great. Just another question, just to the actual area being covered by this structure plan, and it's just a little hard to make out without the road names. That's all within the Albany ward, isn't it? The actual area that's under the structure plan.
There's a small part which is in Henderson Massey.
Okay. What particular part is that from the map? Could just point it out. Sorry?
So it's, I don't know whether I can. So it's down in this area.
Okay, so that small part down there. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Casey.
Oh, Warren, I heard the words economic, cultural and environmental, but I didn't hear the word social. And my next committee meeting is focusing on the social impact of growth. And what I'd like some comment from you about the involvement of community empowerment and community facilities teams in this structure planning. How does it all fit in? You just didn't see it, which doesn't mean it's not happening, but you didn't talk about it.
Okay, so yes, part of what we're looking at is with a community, I guess a centre of somewhere around 25 to 30,000 people, what facilities will be needed within that area. So we've been working with Kataraina's department in terms of looking
Community
at
empowerment. No,
community
development.
community and social policy.
Social policy, yeah. Social policy.
And the sort of the requirements that have been worked out sort of across the region for example, at what level of population you might get a large swimming pool, or what level, what size, at what point you get a library, and so on. So there's some facilities there at the moment, but this is really literally turning greenfields into some medium intensive housing. So there will clearly be, I think we're talking about 2 more primary schools, the potential for a secondary school, a large regional park, I can't say regional park, it's not like that, but
We like regional parks.
well, yes, but it's not like a regional park like what you might. So it's a park of reasonable scale, as well as some small neighbourhood ones as well. There's a whole lot of facilities we're starting to look at, for example, the request for plunket facilities and so on. So we're getting all of that information as we prepare the plan together. So we've got some of it, but we haven't got all of it so far.
Okay, so it's just for the future, when we were going through the SHA process, social infrastructure was quite sadly neglected in terms of the information we could get. And so it's good to know that it's at the outset, but it also needs to be as important as everything else.
Yes, what we're trying to do is create a great place. And the social infrastructure is...
Critical to that.
Yeah, it is, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Councillor Webster, Councillor Darby and Councillor Lee.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Warren. Look, just very quickly, and probably you can address this at another time, just with me if you like. I need some words to tell Kumu people why this is happening before the PORP is actually out there, and why they're coming second.
Land restriction. Later.
Because I just had a very long conversation with someone this morning and said the reason that we're not doing Kumu till 2018 is because we haven't got the zoning yet, because we haven't got the PORP. So I just need some words.
So it's correct that we are doing this now because there is an urgent demand for growth in that area, right? And this committee has declined a number of SHAs exactly for the reason of not having a structure plan in place, so that there is understanding of how these individual requests all fit together. As to why we're doing it before the unitary plan is finalised, well, first of all, we have a future urban land supply strategy which says you need to start working on these areas because we, I guess, because they're seen as the easiest ones for infrastructure to work relatively closely in terms of developing the needed infrastructure. Secondly, the structure plan is a structure plan. It's not the plan change. It's a structure plan which is based on the urban zones within the unitary plan as it is at the moment. But certainly, if they change, then that will be reflected in the statutory plan change that then follows.
And further supplementary to that, thank you. But you can't use SHAs being turned down as an excuse, because we actually turned down quite a few in Kumu-Huapai.
Right. Okay.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're coming up.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, we're just trying to work something out separately here. That's very remiss of me, Councillor Webster.
It's okay.
Did you get your question
Yes, I did.
adequately
No, I
answered?
did, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Darby.
Thanks, Chair. Look, maybe there are other questions. I was just going to help with recommending that the names be yourself, Cooper, sorry for just family names here, Cooper, Watson, Wayne Walker, Webster, maybe, and then the chairs, Chair White, possibly Chair Steele. I know that Rodney have expressed an interest in this area, and Chair Neeson. So they are the names that I would put there, and it might be a bit of flexibility around those names. And the only other, so I would put that after the word comprising councillors: Hulse, Cooper, Watson, W. Walker, Webster, local board chairs, Neeson, Steele and White. And then maybe just a question from myself, just on the C, do we need to maybe, after the word submissions, subject to considering formal local board input? Now, I think structure plans are really worthy of going before, that draft structure plan going before the board, maybe if they just call an extraordinary meeting to consider it and then get their resolution on it, and it supports the councillors and the local board chairs. So I'm just wanting some feedback on that. And if so, I would just add those words, subject to considering formal local board input. And I'm happy to move that to, if that helps.
That's really helpful, Councillor Darby. We were just saying the local board representatives, you know, though if Lisa said she's happy, Brenda may want to delegate to someone and Vanessa may want to delegate to someone. So as long as there's an understanding.
Or their
that
appointees.
Yeah, but I think that's really useful. So you're happy to move that? Someone happy to second that? Is there a second?
I've got the IMSB there. I'm not changing that.
Right.
And it's up to them to choose their representative.
Happy to second. Okay, so that's been seconded by Councillor Wayne Walker. So you're happy with those, Councillor Darby?
That looks good.
Good.
Unless anybody else wants to put their hand up.
Nope, I so far haven't, but we've got lots of speakers still to go. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would note that this Monday there is a tour of the Royal New Zealand Air Force Base under the aegis of the Infrastructure Committee. Obviously, everyone would be invited, all councillors and IMSB members, but also it would seem that it would be appropriate to invite the local board people as well, and importantly, the planners working on the structure plan. So in the spirit of integrated management, not working in silos, it would be useful to try and get the best out of this trip to look at defence infrastructure. But on the way, the reverse sensitivity and the structure plan that I wasn't really aware of could be part of that as well. So I'll leave that thought with you all.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We've got the Tripartite Summit on Monday, so I won't be able to attend, unfortunately, but I have lived on an Air Force base and visited Whenuapai many times, so issues.
And the good thing is, with the people on the working party who were part of old Waitakere, it is incredibly well known, well understood and well traversed. We can outline the Hana and Mana sites and everything else that goes with the Air Force Base. Councillor Walker.
Sure. Happy with the reference group. Just got a question around timing, and I note that there's a bundle of work that's underway. I'd suggest that there's some urgency around the meeting of that reference group. Obviously, we've only got so many months left in this term of council, and I think it's important for us to be giving a lead to the people that are engaged in this work. Just around the transport, for example, some of the things that I'd be looking for is provision for park and ride, and integrated development so that people can walk and cycle to the park and ride and other locations off-road, and that is something that has not happened to date in enough developments. Quite obviously, there are huge concerns around the integration of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and as much and all as I see that we've got this reference group that's obviously around councillors and the like, I'm assuming that reference group is part of a larger reference group that embraces the Air Force and local groups. Is that the way it works?
So we have, we've met with the Air Force already, and they have, and met several times with them now. And as I say, we've been using the existing community consultation processes so far, but I think the meeting with the ratepayers group may well set up some sort of feedback response group, yes.
Sure. And the last point that I just want to put on the table, and I'm sure it's being embraced by this work, is the adequacy, the amount of park space, because we know that we've got severe limitations around our development contributions regime. We need to put those things on the table.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wood.
Well, thank you. I have actually, I know this area reasonably well, but I actually was out there a few weeks ago, and obviously the present SHA is looking very good, and I think it's timely that we do this work, and I just want to congratulate the staff for getting on and getting it done, and doing it and expediting it in such a way that it's going to be finished by September. So congratulations, wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wood. Agreed. I've got Member Ngamane and then quick word from Councillor Webster.
Kia ora. We're comfortable with the resolutions, and we will look to appoint somebody to that reference group. I just think perhaps for future reference, there was a little bit of a flyaway comment about whatever Ngāti Whātua Kaipara's name is now. If we can just clarify that, in November 2010, Ngāti Whātua Kaipara approved the post-settlement governance entity, and it comprises two private trusts. One is Ngāti Whātua Ngā Maunga Whakaahi o Kaipara Development Trust, and the other is Ngā Maunga Whakaahi o Kaipara Tari Pupuri Taonga Trust. So it's important you do know which one you're dealing with, and that you get your head around the name for future reference.
Warren, if you can say it
So,
again.
no.
I think it'd be good.
Warren.
Thank you, Member Ngamane.
Get tongue around that one.
Yes, I think we've just started seeing the new names coming through, and it's useful to just get clear when it's still Ngāti Whātua o Kaipara and which of the two trusts we're dealing with. Councillor Webster.
Yeah, well, can I just, I know Warren wouldn't have done that with any disrespect, but, you know, Warren and myself, and as have others, we've worked with Ngāti Whātua o Kaipara, and that's how we know them for many, many years. And I find it very difficult sometimes to announce that it's Ngā Manga Whakahi, because I'm so used to the other way. Can I just thank Warren for his work, but also thank himself and Lisa and Linda, because we went to the TFUG meetings in Whenuapai. They were well attended by locals, and we got a lot of really good positive feedback. And you know, I don't know who else has been to going to some of those TFUG meetings, Madam Chair, but they've been well attended by the public. Huge amount of time put in by staff on Saturday mornings and Saturday afternoons. So thank you, Warren, for the one that you went to, the two that you went to at Whenuapai.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. Councillor Cooper.
Just in terms of the SHA that's already been, well, it's basically going to be, it's all happening. I mean, it will really change the dynamics of Brigham's Creek, and we know that there's a whole lot of work being done on that, because it won't sustain that new traffic, or indeed if we fill up the rest of that area. And I guess that's the thing, is now, because the master plan's coming after that, we will be somewhat constrained because we've already got a development. So, but one of the things I'm really keen to not do is just replicate Stonefields or Hobsonville Point, that it is something different, you know, that does actually reflect that coastal and historical rural nature, because that's really important. And speaking to some of the people, because there's a lot of ex-Air Force people that have retired there, and a lot of my husband's and my dad's from the Air Force over the years, and a lot of them are saying now, look, we're moving away because, you know, it's time for us to leave because it's changing. So you'll get that natural attrition, but there'll also be a lot of people that really want to embrace that. But as long as the transport matches the development, and then we're not lagging. So I'm really pleased that we've got some money in to at least acquire a little bit of land for the Northwestern Busway. But that's where you've said here and that your stakeholders are the TFUG, but it really needs to be NZTA as well, and that list of stakeholders, and I'm sure it's there, it's just not written.
So NZTA are part of the
I know they are, but yeah, I know, but it just, that acronym just doesn't speak anything to the public.
Right.
Thank you.
We talked about that.
One of Jim's favourite
Like the
issues
full
at the
strategy.
moment is get rid of stuff that kind of alienates our community and uses acronyms that no one has the foggiest idea about. So, no, I think this man's on a mission to do that. Okay, let's put the recommendations. Everyone's comfortable.
Madam Chair,
Councillor Quinn.
just before we conclude this, I think it may have been touched on briefly as well, and that is the employment opportunities in the area. I think Councillor Cooper talked about that, but I wonder if it's worth adding that to the not to the recommendation, Warren, but to the work that is currently underway. I wonder if it would be worthwhile because I think it's really important to ensure that that there is employment opportunities within these areas. Otherwise, we end up with people going all over the place and just congesting the roads even more than they are at the moment. And so I wonder if there would be some opportunities there to engage with perhaps Chamber of Commerce, employers, manufacturers associations, and so forth, in order to determine what opportunities there are for employment in this area.
Councillor Quicks, I think that's somewhat, you know, you raise an interesting point, but just to explain where things are at, we've got our Councillor Cooper in the previous Waitakere Council chaired the NORSGA group, which looked at exactly that. We had business involved, we had commercial people involved, and that was the entire focus, was endeavouring to turn around the flow on the motorway. That's where Westgate came from. So, you know, if we just get behind and support Westgate and the developments in the Northwest Corridor, this is, you know, we are way down the track with looking at employment, commercial opportunities in there. We're aiming for 10,000 jobs in that area to deal with exactly this issue. So, with the greatest of respect, this work is well underway, and the oversight group, the Norwest Steering Group, is doing exactly this between the Rodney, the Henderson Massey, and we're bringing in the Upper Harbour elected members to make sure that this is still top of mind. But there's a huge amount of work being done in exactly that.
That's why we wanted
so for
different industries on Hobsonville, Madam
for all the
Chair.
criticisms of Hobsonville, that's exactly why we tried to retain that business and investment area in Hobsonville and not see the whole thing just leak into housing. And I'm sure every single elected member is absolutely behind Westgate every step of the way to get those jobs going and to invest what's needed to do that.
Yeah, and international.
We could have an international airport, Councillor Wood. No, let's not start that again. So
It could be in your campaign manifesto.
So, Councillor Quicks, the work is
I keep to my own area.
the work is well underway.
Now.
So let's put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much, Warren. Thank you, and thank you to the team who are working on this. There is a lot of criticism out there. about council not doing things fast enough. Turning around a structure plan in 8 months is pretty impressive. I'll move item, the exclusion of the public.
Yes.
We are going to be dealing with purchase of property, and that does need to be done in confidential
I'll
to
second that.
protect
I'll
our
second that, Madam
financial
Chair.
bottom line. I'll move that. Councillor Wood will second. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So we'll just take a moment. And I might actually just hand over, Councillor Darby, are you happy to just take over the stormwater discussion? Thank you all.
Craig's on the hot seat, eh? Ooh.